Hello and welcome. I am your host of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Author Karen E. Osborne. I have five novels out. The latest is Justice for Emerson. I am so glad that you're here. This is a space for readers and writers to come together and talk about books. So I am delighted to introduce all of you to Lauryn Jay. Hey, Lauren.
Hi, Karen. Nice to see you.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. I'm glad you're here. So
Thank
we
you.
are, so we've got some exciting things to talk about today. Not only the book that you have out, but the other books that are coming out.
Yeah.
So we got to just dive in. So
Okay.
maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about your writing journey. Like, how did you get started? Um, how quickly did things move? Just give us some backstory.
Yeah, great question. So, I am not a writer by trade. This is not my full-time job. I hopefully one day it'll be my full-time career. I've always had a love for writing, and about 6 years ago, I just had this story in my head, and I kept just like repeating it and repeating it. I'm like, I just need to get this down. So, what was the idea in my head turned out to be the first novel, You Always, that was published last year. But I have no formal training. I've learned along the way. I've taken a bunch of classes, joined a bunch of critique groups. I realized that I probably need to go back and take English classes again because I've learned I'm a great storyteller, but my grammar is horrible. So I've learned a lot about that. But I've become a better and better writer as I've progressed throughout this journey.
So, that's such a lot of our watchers, listeners are writers themselves. And that's something that we all know that you just have to keep studying your craft, studying your craft. And, but I have to tell you, six books in and the seventh coming out,
Awesome.
I still have a fraught relationship with commas. We just don't get along.
Yeah, mine is
So,
I like to use crutch words like that, just and apparently I just add
mm,
them way too much, but maybe that's how I talk, and so I write sometimes how I talk, which is not great.
I'm part of a critique group. And I'm known for pointing out how many times people have used particular favorite word.
Mm-hmm.
Like mine is feel and felt,
Mm. Yep.
believe and thought. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, I say, do you not, you wrote in 18 pages, you had the word looked 24 times. So,
Yep.
so you're not alone. You're not alone. That's why we have good editors. It
Exactly.
helps us a
Yep.
lot. So
Yep.
tell us the premise. Tell
Yeah.
us the premise of your debut novel.
Yes. So you always, which I have a copy, and I'll display it here. So you
Isn't that,
always
first of all, that's a gorgeous cover. Look at
love
that.
it. I The letters are significant. I'll get to that in a minute, but thank you. So you always, the years of us is, for all intents and purposes, a love story, but it's not your traditional happily ever after romance that you would normally think of. It opens up at a wedding. It is Audrey and Jim's wedding, and you'll get to know them. And the readers quickly realize this is not a young couple, this is a much older couple. And then something happens to Jim, and readers don't know if he's going to live or die, leading Audrey with immense guilt over just the years that have passed. So then the readers are taken back 40 years to when they met in college at Northwestern. And the story then follows over the next 40 years, and each chapter is a year leading all the way back up to the present. Um, I love this story because, again, it's not linear. I think it shows the realness and the messiness of life and how sometimes it might be the right person, wrong time, or right time, but other things are happening. So I think a lot of readers relate to this story. Um, and then I don't want to give away the ending, but it is a romance. So got to leave readers with hope. But I really enjoyed just building those characters. Like I said, I had this idea for a very long time, and Audrey was just in my head. And you get to see them progress because they start out in their 20s and then they're all the way. The book ends in their mid 60s, so it really is
60s,
just
yeah.
a beautiful love story.
That sounds like a beautiful love story. So tell us a little bit about the characters themselves. What is Audrey like? What are
Mhm.
some of her strengths, some of her weaknesses? Help us understand her.
Yeah, so and it's interesting because you meet Audrey, and young Audrey is very different from older Audrey, just much like life, we mature. Audrey is an attorney and she's very independent, strong-willed, and she's just like a fierce like romantic, and she falls head over heels for Jim, and so you're constantly rooting for Audrey to try to have the best life that she can have despite everything that she's been throwing at her. So she's definitely a just person like I see in my everyday life and remind me of so much. So she's just such a great character. And then Jim is fun. Um, not every love interest is going to be like the best guy in the world. And Jim really isn't that great of a guy to begin with. And I think a lot of readers question, like, why is she after him? Or why are
Mm.
they together? But again, you see Jim in his 20s. He's very different, as much as young guys are starting out, they don't really know what they want in life. And then you see Jim evolve throughout the years. Jim's also an attorney, but he's very driven, very career oriented, almost to the fact where he lets that overtake a lot of things. Um, but he does have immense love for Audrey, and he's just a very caring guy at the core of it.
So do they, during the course of the 40 years, do they interact at all?
They do, yes.
Oh,
You
okay.
see them go in and out of each other's lives throughout
Mm,
the 40 years.
yeah,
Sometimes they
yeah.
get together, sometimes they don't get together. Things happen. But yes, they are in constant contact
As the
throughout the 40 years.
stories, and the stories change point of view between them.
They don't. That's a great question. It's all in Audrey's point of view. Except for the end. I do switch it to Jim's point of view at the end. Just a little shake up, but for the most part, it's Audrey.
And so that is out. This
Mhm.
wonderful book is out.
Yep.
And well, before I ask you about the new books,
Hmm.
when you were going through this process, other than finding out that you and the English language, grammar, had
Yeah.
some, couple of challenges, like
Yeah.
many of us, but did you learn anything else about yourself as part of this journey, this writing journey?
Um, I I realized I can do it. I One, just determination. Like I said, this is not my full-time job. I'm also married and have two kids. So there's a lot going on, but I think if you are really have a passion and you're determined, just do it because you never know. And I think for many, many years, I was so scared to show people what I had written because I thought it was bad. And I learned like you got to put yourself out there and also you got to do the work. Um, so I learned that about myself. It's like it's okay to just take chances.
Ah,
And then, yeah, I think I've learned that I have a lot of more stories in my head.
mm,
And it just cracked open more of this creativity that I think I had buried for so long.
like that. So tell us about the two new books that are coming out next year.
Yes. So, in the romance genre, but You Always is more of a drama. The next book is a romantic comedy, and it'll be out next February. I'm super excited about it. This Rom-coms are fun to read, but they're very fun to write because they're quick, they're easy. They're just really fun stories. So the one that's called coming out in February is about a mystery writer who isn't doing quite well in her author career, and so her publisher gives her an ultimatum: she has to write a romance, or else she's going to be dropped. So she goes to Buenos Aires, Argentina to visit her college roommate, but also to get inspiration. And in there, she meets a guy who she starts to like. All the while, there is another guy back home. She lives in LA, who happens to be her college friend and her current agent. And so you start to see a multiple rom-com tropes happening at once, from friends to lovers, slow burn, love triangle all at once. And everything just kind of blows up, but it's a fun read. And I loved writing about Buenos Aires, Argentina, because you see a lot of books and like rom-com books and like Paris, New York, and whatnot, but I wanted to do something just a little bit different.
Different. Yes. Oh, that's it. I love rom-coms. I
Good.
don't write them because I don't know how to write funny. I have a hard time writing funny. I'd rather make you cry. But I love, but I love reading and watching rom-coms. So that sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
Um, so this is What Are You Reading?
Mm-hmm.
What Are You writing?
Mm-hmm.
Have you read anything recently that you could
I
recommend?
I have. And that, another thing about becoming a writer is I've learned to read more. And a lot of people like you need to read because the more you read, the more you learn the craft of
Hmm.
writing. So I definitely read all the time. I I just finished Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown, which he is probably the reason why I got into reading in the first place. I love rom-coms, I love romance, but I also love like mystery with religion, so it's perfect. Um, but I do read a lot of romance and rom-coms, so I actually did an audiobook. I had to drive 6 hours to North Carolina and I read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I had to pull over because I was sobbing at the end. It is so beautiful. And it really like it still resonates with me. Um, and then I love Carly Fortune. So anything she writes. So One Golden Summer I finished a couple months ago. I absolutely love. And then I'm currently reading The Wedding People, and
I
then
love that book.
okay, good. Yes, I'm two chapters in. I'm one of those people like I know like I try to read it as fast as possible, but sometimes like your list runs. So I know that's been out for a while, but that's currently what I'm reading.
That's such a good book. I
Okay,
thank you
good.
for the other recommendations because
Yeah.
I don't know those books. And I always love that part of the show that I get to add more and more books to my to be read pile.
Mhm.
But The Wedding People is a great read.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
good.
Yeah. I've liked it so far. It was different than what I thought it was going to be. So I thought it
Yes,
was
it
going to
is
be funny,
surprising.
and then it opened up not funny. I'm like, okay, this is a turn, but I liked
Yeah,
it.
it's a twist which makes it fresh and
Yeah. Exactly.
and very, very good. Yeah. Well, that is awesome. So, folks, you know that you can find, could you hold up your beautiful cover again, just so
Yeah.
everybody can remember. Look at that. You Always, The Years of Us by Lauryn Jay. And you can find it on Amazon. You can find it in Barnes and Noble. You can find it in your local independent store. You can find it in the library. You can find it on her publisher's website, Black Rose Writing. So there's any place you buy your books or listen to your books, uh, you can find her book.
Yep.
Please buy it, read it, review it. Thank you in advance.
Thank
But
you.
Lauren, how can they find you?
Yes, so I have joined the social media train. So I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Lauryn J Writes. And then I also have a website too, laurynj.com.
There they can find out where you're speaking, things like that, if you have
Yes,
any events.
yes, when my next two books will be published, those exact dates and little teasers about that as well.
Very good, very good. And so you book club folks, Lauren would be a great guest to a book club in person or online. So do be in touch with her. And when you do, tell her that you met her on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Until next week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Karen. This was so much fun.